Hello and welcome to this quick refresher video on how to solve absolute value inequalities. Now you might recall solving absolute value equations like this one here on the left. Remember, there are two values here that would make this true. We can set the inside equal to 3, or we can set the inside equal to -3, because if this inside were 3, then the absolute value of 3 is 3. And if the inside value were -3, well, it doesn't matter because the absolute value would make it positive. So we always split the equation into two equations, one equaling the positive number and one equaling the negative number. Now that's how we do it when it's an equal sign. So what we need to do now is discuss what we do when it's a less than or a greater than sign. To do this, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to make sure the absolute value is by itself and then split it into two equations. One with x plus 4 being less than 3, and then one with x plus 4 being greater than or -3. So again, what we do is we write two equations, and we have one going less than and one going greater than. Now, when you flip the sign, that means you're multiplying by -1. And so that's why the sign's getting flipped here. And this is why that 3 becomes -3. Once you've set it up, if it's a less than inequality, then we know it's going to be an and inequality. And then we'll solve each part separately. So we'll -4 to both sides. And I'm left with x is less than -1. Here we -4 to both sides. And we're left with x is greater than -7. You could even graph this if you're required to. We would keep the word and here. This would be the algebraic answer, is that x is less than -1 and x is greater than -7. Sometimes you might have to graph those, and we would graph -7 and -1. We would use open dots because it's not equal to, and then shade inside. We can do the same thing with when it's greater than. It would be, let's try x plus 7 is greater than 5. We would break this into two equations. X plus 7 is greater than 5, or x plus 7 is less than -5. Again, we're always going to write one with the same sign and then one with the opposite sign. And because it's opposite sign, we flip that sign and do a negative on the value. Because this is a greater than, it's an or inequality, meaning that it's going to shade to the outsides. We -7 to both sides. I get x is greater than -2. Or when we -7 here, it's x is less than -12. We can go ahead and graph these inequalities if you're required to. Doing that, we would have -12 down here and -2 up here. And it says x is less than 12. So open dot shading to the left because it's less than. And we need to graph x is greater than -2. So that's open dot and shades to the right. Okay, that's how we solve absolute value inequalities. Let's have you try 3 and see how you do. Okay, here are your 3 absolute value inequality questions. Go ahead and solve and graph each of these. You'll need to pause the video now, give these a try, and then when you're ready to check your answer, unpause, or if you need help, unpause, and we'll work through these 3 together. Go ahead and pause now. Okay, welcome back. Let's solve these bad boys. We've got absolute value. So to solve an absolute value, we need to split it into two equations. It's going to be x minus 2 is less than or equal to 4. And then on this other side, we're going to need to flip my sign, so it's greater than or equal to -4. It's going to be an and inequality because it's less than. The original problem was less than. I solve each of these, so I'm going to add 2 here. So I get x is less than or equal to 6. And when I add 2 here, I get x is greater than or equal to -2. And we should graph those as well. That's our answer algebraically, but we should always graph. Let's see, -2 is over here, and 6 is above that. This is an and inequality, and it's equal to. So I'm going to use closed dots, and it's x is less than 6, so that goes this way, and x is greater than -2, so that goes this way, and so it meets here in the middle with closed dots on the outside. Awesome. Let's try this green one. Again, we're going to break it into two equations. 2x plus 1 is greater than 3. Because this is a greater than, it's going to be an or inequality. And it's 2x plus 1. Now, when you write this second equation, remember, you got to flip the sign and change the value. So it's going to be less than negative 3. We change the sign and add a negative onto the number. Now I got to solve each one of these. I'm going to minus 1 here, so I get 2x is greater than 2. So x is greater than 1. Remember, we got to divide by 2 here. On this one, I minus 1, negative 3 minus 1, that's 2x is less than negative 4. Then we divide by 2, and I get x is less than negative 2. And it's an or inequality. Okay. So that right there is the answer. And if they tell you to graph it, which they did here, I would go from negative 2 to 1. It's x is greater than 1. Okay, this is an open dot because it's not equal to. And it's greater than, so it shades to the right. This is x is less than negative 2. It's open dot, and it's less than, so it shades to the left. That's how we would do that one right there. So again, they might ask for the graph. This would be our answer. If they ask for the algebraic answer, then we would say this is our answer right here. Either two ways. Okay. Let's go ahead on number 3 and solve this one. I need to get, oh my, this is a weird one because the absolute value is not by itself. Remember, the very first step is to get the absolute value by itself. So that's what we need to do here. We're going to minus 2 to both sides. And I get x minus 3 is less than 3. Okay, good. Now the absolute value is by itself. We can split it into two equations. X minus 3 is less than 3. And x minus 3 is, flip the sign, change the value so it's negative 3. Good. Because this was a less than inequality, I'm going to put and in between them. I'm going to plus 3 to both sides. I get x is less than 6. And when I plus 3 to this side, I get x is greater than 0. So that's my algebraic answer. And graphically, we would put a 0 right here and a 6 right here. X is less than 6, so it's open dot, and x is greater than 0, that's open dot, and the shading would be in between those 2 points. Okay, thanks for refreshing this absolute value inequality concept with me, and keep working hard. Thanks for watching.